Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. We're very honored to have some outstanding poets. And this group was brought together by Dr. Thelma T. Reyna. And these are the Pushcart Prize nominees that are going to highlight some of their work. And with that, we'll pass it over to Thelma T. Reyna.
Thank you very much, Armando. It is such a pleasure for us to be here today. And this is a very joyous event. About 40 years ago or so, the Pushcart Prize in Literature was established, and it has since become one of the most prestigious prizes in America. It is international, and it is given out in poetry and prose, I believe in journalism and some other genres. Publishers and editors and special other literary world figures can nominate a poem or a piece of work in another genre that they believe deserves to win the annual Pushcart Prize for that particular genre. As the editor and publisher of our recent anthology, When the Virus Came Calling, COVID-19 Strikes America, I had that distinct pleasure as well of being able to choose up to 6 authors that were published in our book and to nominate them as a Pushcart Prize nominee, in this case in poetry. Simply to be nominated is an honor. You can put it on your resume, you can call yourself for the rest of your life, I am a Pushcart Prize nominated poet. And it's a wonderful honor for a writer to have. The actual winners, which are, just maybe a few dozen out of thousands and thousands of nominations from all over the world, will be announced later this year. But for us today, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the honored poets. Remember, it's their poems that were honored, but these are the beautiful, wonderful, talented people who wrote those beautiful, wonderful Pushcart Prize nominated poems. So we're going to be meeting them, and today they will read their nominated poem and possibly share another poem with us. And then we're going to be having a discussion of how this pandemic has affected our lives as we move forward into the second year of it. I'd also like to say a little bit about our book. You can see it in the background there behind me, and I can just hold up a real life copy of the book. This is a very special work. We started it in early spring of 2020. The pandemic had basically just been discovered in America when I got the idea to do this book. I reached out to 50 distinguished poets and prose writers that I knew from across America, that I either personally knew or that I knew of them through other people that I respected and admired. Out of these 50 personally, directly invited poets, I was so delighted that 45 of them agreed to send me some work so that we could publish it into our new anthology that was actually issued in September 2020. And this anthology captures their sentiments, their experiences, their fears, their hopes, as we were all in real time living the pandemic in that first year, 2020. So the book covers the first 7 months of the pandemic. Again, it is When the Virus Came Calling, COVID-19 Strikes America, and it focuses only on the American experience with it. And we believe it was a groundbreaking book. And we're so proud of it. And these are wonderful participants there. I'd like to start out with introducing one of the nominated poets. Her name is Angie Voorhees. And let me tell you a little bit about Angie. Angie Voorhees is a poet, documentarian, and co-founder of San Diego Roots, a nonprofit dedicated to educating, empowering, and cultivating sustainable local food communities. Her writing has appeared in Poetry International, Orion Magazine, Atlanta Review, and Notre Dame Review. She recently received her certificate in documentary filmmaking from the Center for Documentary Studies at Duke University. And she makes poem films focusing on social and environmental justice. With great pleasure, here is Angie Voorhees telling us the title of her poem and sharing it with us.
Thank you very much, Thelma. This is a poem that was co-written with Linda Dove, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. So I will be reading her lines. We alternated lines. So I'll be reading for the both of us today. The title is, At the Start of the Pandemic, We Find Ourselves in the Desert. The moon opened over my bed like a dangerous blossom, a corolla, a whorl unfurled, a silver pistol pointed this way. In the desert, everything is aiming for your life. I've come here to sleep among the Joshua trees, where a small bird lands in between the pricked leaves, a flare of iridescent green and violet, spread like an infection across the neck. It's hard to stop moving when your heart beats 500 times a minute. It's hard to stop feeling like you're running out of time. Here on Serrano land, after the Spanish, after smallpox, it's all bayonets and spines. The news has us on edge. WHO declared the outbreak a pandemic today, named it Corona, spikes orbiting the virus like a crown. How a cactus wren builds its nest inside a teddy bear, Choya. How we hope to take shelter in a world of thorns. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angie. That is just a beautiful, beautiful a memory, a memorial to all of us of what that first day was like for you and for Linda. I'd like to introduce next Dr. Carolyn Clark. Carolyn Clark was born in Ithaca, New York, and often lived abroad. She studied classics at Cornell, Brown, and Johns Hopkins University. Her dissertation was called Tibullus Illustrated, Laris, Genius, and Sacred Landscapes in 1998. Carolyn's recent poetry publications include Poet Duet, A Mother and Daughter, issued in 2019, Newfound Land, published in 2017, and a pair of Finishing Line Press chapbooks, Choose Lethe, Remember to Forget, in 2017, and Mnemosyne, The Long Traverse, in 2013. Carolyn also likes to write winter poems, as she did in the Avocet, 2017, 2018, 2019, all while moving back to the Finger Lakes region. Dr. Clark is a devoted teacher, writing Woodlands lyric poetry and finding mythology everywhere. So without further ado, congratulations to Dr. Carolyn Clark.
Thank you, Thelma. Thank you for bringing us together. The poem I'm reading is called Windowsill Prayer, a precursor to COVID-19. It was written in April 3rd of 2020. Let me polish my grief like stones from the creek, lucky stones pulled from time's passage and brought home to stay on the sill, quite well oiled still. Let me feel the refrain of repetition each day in prayers and thoughts that otherwise, like birds, would fly away. Let me feed them, my soul. It's hard to survive, to let yourself feel and still be alive, to shake the quilt of open spaces that so few can have, while COVID-19 cuts its wide swath. Let my sadness shine in tears, warm and salty, compassionate, real.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. Our next honored poet, our Pushcart Prize nominee, is Tricia Faye Hefner. Her work has been published in several journals, including Blood Lotus, the Cincinnati Review, Fourth River, Hunger Mountain, Pyrenees Fountain, Poet Lore, Prairie Schooner, and Rattle. Tricia Faye is the recipient of the 2011 Robert and Adele Schiff Poetry Prize, the 2011 Alien Sloth Sex Award, a 2015 Pushcart Prize Poetry nominee, and she is the author of 2 chapbooks, The Lone Breakable Night and Take This Longing, both issued by Finishing Line Press. Tricia is founder of the Poetry Salon, where she mentors writers. She has studied with poets such as Kim Adonizio, Sally Ashton, Jack Grapes, Suzanne Lummis, and she is founder of the Poetry Depths Mystery School. Kim Rosen, and you can find out more about Tricia at her website, www.thepoetrysalon.com. Welcome, Tricia.
Passover 2020. Play for me the saddest song, something Judaic that reminds me of bread left unleavened. All over the world today, people are about to die. Animal trainers and car mechanics stand outside at sunrise, memorize their faces, the feel of their invisible weight on the planet. They are in ambulances, and the ambulances are on their way to the ships, which will turn them away. You can pray to God, but he is busy hardening Pharaoh's heart, preparing a redness of plague. There is nothing we can do to stop it. The cities paint blood on the doorways, sacrificing so many lambs. We are saying goodbye to the world we wanted to live in. If it was gold, if it was glittering, if it was anything we wanted, now it is gone. The stranger has come, looks us twice in the evil eye, shrivels the grapes, spotlights the local news. You say we are changing the world, but the world is here to change us. On the day you die, it will still be this way. The clouds are fluid. Tonight I will boil eggs. I will eat a bitter herb. I will mix salt and water and pretend they are not my own tears. I will watch Yul Brynner play Pharaoh on television and Charlton Heston play Moses. I will pray that someone's heart be softened. I will pray for an honesty I cannot name. I will submerge myself in this sadness and cross through the salt of another Red Sea, listening to the suspended waves crash onto soldiers who follow close behind.
Our next honored poem is Dr. Mary Langer Thompson. Mary was the 2012 Senior Poet Laureate of California. Her poems, short stories, and essays appear in various journals and anthologies. She is a contributor to 2 poetry writing texts. One was The Working Poet, and the other, Women and Poetry, Writing, Revising, Publishing, and Teaching. Mary also published 2 children's books, How the Blue-Tongued Skink Got His Blue Tongue, and The Gull Who Thought He Was Dull. A retired school principal and former secondary English teacher, Mary Thompson received her EDD from the University of California, Los Angeles. She continues to enjoy conducting writing workshops for schools, prisons, and in her community, where she won the 2019 Jack London Award from the California Writers Club in the High Desert branch. Without further ado, Mary Langer Thompson.
Thank you, Thelma. So happy to be here today and to re-listen to these marvelous poems. Mine is called For the Minister of Loneliness, and it's for Tracy Crouch, who was appointed in England as that Minister of Loneliness in 2018. If I were given your title, first, I'd take care of all the lonely Eleanor Rigbys on your island, then fly to our USA, the whole nation a Soledad Canyon, where there's an isolation epidemic and people try to hoard love in bulk at Costco. I'd separate out the chain smokers, couch potatoes, and those with heart disease, whom they say are already goners. but not the writers who try to learn their stories and are not really lonely, only written that way. In your new position, kumbaya, my minister, for I have no one else to talk to. I'll be on my front porch in the boonies, looking like a sad sack, because I have insomnia and lie awake between short dreams packed with untrue lovers. Don't despair. I'm prepared if you tell me there's nothing you can do. Just come before I'm as desperate as your Richard Corey, who put a bullet in his head. Thank you.
Our next honored poet is Edward Vidaurre. He is the author of 7 collections of poetry. He is the 2018-2019 City of McAllen, Texas Poet Laureate and a 5-time Pushcart Prize nominee for poetry. He is also publisher of Flower Song Press and its sister imprint, Juventud Press. His writings have appeared or are forthcoming in the following: the New York Times Magazine, the Texas Observer, Grist, Poet Lore, the Acentos Review, Poetry Bay, Voices de la Luna, as well as other journals and anthologies. Vidaurre has been a judge for submissions for the Houston Poetry Festival, editor for the Rio Grande Valley International Poetry Festival Anthology, Boundless 2020, and editor of Cutthroat, a journal of the arts. Vidaurre is from Boyle Heights, California, and now resides in McAllen, Texas, with his wife and daughter. Congratulations to Edward Vidaurre.
Thank you. This is my poem, God Is. 1. God is an open wound, a kung fu movie and a celestial sicario. God made our president with leftover road cotton and grackle droppings. His sandals are of leftover human skin from the factory of suicide rock stars. Today he wears the kneecaps of Janice to match his UFO belt. God is unfazed at 3 p.m. He whispers to me from a 6 feet distance. God lays naked on steel surfaces with his long hair covering the shadow of men. God has a sticker on his chest that reads, I voted. He's nonchalant. He has a twin. She does all the good work. 2. God is your God's God, yoga and breathing. She is the breath of life. Latex gloves and exhaling the sun over mountains. She is the blamed, the curve, the torn Achilles heel. God is a beat poet, the coming strain, the big question, the control, the last minute mind changer, the finger on the gun, the safety switch. God is the ultimate filter, the event planner, the street cleaner, the thing in the sky that was there and then was not, the ventilator, the death toll. She knows the bodies are coming. 3. God is language, a lisp and stutter. God has Down syndrome, the autistic genius, the only child. From the other side of the tracks, have you ever thought of God as old? The wrinkled hobo and toothless smoker, the girl next door, the square-jawed hombre, creator of a new earth between ellipses, growing peonies on hyphens. God is soil and water, the trans angel, the monk making booze, the anorexic gargoyle breaking off a ledge, the movement in the painting. God's number is 8 digits behind iron bars, the noisemaker, the vuvuzela in purgatory, guilty. God is doing time. 4. God is a found poem in exile, an unbelievable truth, an asteroid belt crash, mammoth, that sound, that silence. 5. God is tired of rising on Easter. God is trying to figure out the diameter of this pandemic, writing ghostly hymns for the dead. Did you know God was a celestial laureate? Sky writings, the sounds you hear in the morning of birds and wind chimes, speeding cars and barking dogs. Did you think the sound was just that? Commotion? God writes those sounds into existence every day. I know when God is in a Motown mood, a hippie rock, or just a lounging jazz mood. And when it's too quiet, God let the whiskey get the better of him. 6. God likes to drink with me. I listen.
I think our audience can see now why these poets' writing, beautiful, glorious writing, was honored by being selected as nominees for the Pushcart Prize in Poetry. We are very proud of them, and they have enriched our experience, our love of poetry, our understanding of humanity. They have given us new perspectives. So my thanks, first of all, to all of our nominees here. Thank you for your excellence, for your focus on quality, for your talent, and most importantly, for sharing all these gifts with the general public, the society, because we need you. We would like to take some time now, if any of our honored poets has a second poem that you would like to share with us, if we still have time, especially if it's dealing with the pandemic since we published our book in 2020. We would welcome that. And we can go in any order. And thank you for joining our presentation today. To wrap up our session, we're going to have two of our honored poets read a short poem each, and then we're going to go immediately into an open discussion of our feelings, our experiences, our thoughts about the pandemic in this second year of the pandemic, or any other pertinent thoughts that our honored poets would like to share with us. Thank you.
So I'll begin with a very short poem I wrote for the local library's themed Hope Poem in a Pocket Day, which was April 29th of this year. It's called Space, S-P-E-S, the Latin word for hope. Space is all around. When Romans borrowed space from the Greeks and freed her from the darkened box, they knew she was different from the rest, different from all those woes and diseases that had peeled out as Pandora peeked in. Hope alone had stayed, a solitary bright seed, strong, hard, and alive, awaiting human need. When hope finally did step out, she was tall and her image suddenly sprung up all around. In Augustan statues, temples, on coins, she was everywhere to be found, a shining reminder with one hand extending offertory flower, her other hand lifting billowing skirts just high enough to reach her stride.
Thank you, Carolyn, for that lovely poem. Mythology is timeless, it's classic, and you always keep it fresh and alive in our minds. Thank you for that. And we're going to hear a short poem from Mary Langer Thompson. Mary.
I chose a lighter one. It's COVID related because 2020 was the centennial for women getting the vote. And it was extended into 2021, the celebration and commemoration because of COVID. So this one's called I Vote for Saxon. And Saxon was a cat that traveled with two women in a car across the US. I vote for Saxon, not the Anglos, of course, who suggested suffragists were catty, so demeaned both women and kitties, insinuating my sisters were all crazy cat ladies. Not the Anglos, of course, who were propagandists who dressed felines in hats and shawls and let them wear the pants to show how silly we all were. Not the Anglos, of course, who force-fed women on hunger strikes, holding them down while inserting tubes previously done to only the insane. Not the Anglos, of course, who feared we were tomcats who would steal their jobs and keep them home doing laundry, but Saxon, black kitty from Alabama, who turned the tables on those Anglos and got adopted by two suffragettes and traveled the USA with them. You don't want to close them in, neither cats nor women. So I vote for Saxon, the cat who persisted. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Mary. All right. Now, please, let's open it up. Whoever wants to speak, just share with us your final thoughts about, our pandemic, about your experience in 2020, about how 2021 is going for you. So whoever wants to go, please.
I'll just exhale That's what I do before I speak. Real quickly, exhale. And that's because I feel very much that the inspiration for writing is keen and sometimes hurtful as we go through the day, trying to sort out news and know what we can feel, how much to feel, when to feel, without letting it sharpen our ribs. I have a hurt rib right now, an old injury. So certain motions I make hurt very abruptly. And I feel that way about the pandemic because you just never know when it's going to hit. So like an intercostal muscle, you have to be ready for anything every day and always have empathy in your heart, but be ready for action and hope for better in the year ahead of us and the days. That's me. Exhale.
Thank you. Thank you. Tricia, would you like to share anything?
It's been really interesting. I've spent the pandemic sort of trapped in paradise in Costa Rica because we moved here before the pandemic. And, you know, it's been very interesting seeing everything sort of from afar. And one thing that I'm really interested in that I've been trying to write about, I think, is what young people are going through. I'm very curious to see how this pandemic is going to change the next generation, and conversely, how the next generation is going to change as a result of this pandemic. And I think it was actually Emma Thompson on a podcast said, you know, we're all in a hole right now, plant some seeds. And so I'm very interested in seeing what seeds are going to come to fruition as a result of this hole we've been in for the last year or so.
Mary?
I just want to say that I know that a lot of us have lost people. Carolyn lost her mother, and I've lost people in the past year due to COVID or not. And that you, Thelma, have shown us in your Dearest Papa that poetry can help us grieve. And it's been a tremendous help to me. And I thank you for your leadership in that. And when we get honors, it helps. It just helps. And you've made us feel very important, and our voices feel very important during this trying time. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those kind words, Mary. And it's been totally my pleasure and my honor to work with all of you guys, fantastic human beings. What one of the things that has struck me about the pandemic, and I see it still continuing in different levels, is the resilience of the American people. Yes, we have lost so many people, and the death toll keeps going up despite the vaccination program that's going on right now. But when I think about how, for instance, look at what we're doing right now. We used to be in bookstores and libraries and festivals talking about our writings. And now for about a year, we've been sitting in front of our laptops because we did not want to lose the human connection. So we have collectively, different people in different ways, have invented different ways to keep that human connectivity, which to me is one of the most important things that the pandemic injured, and one of the most important things that our society has fought to maintain. So bravo to all the people who came up with alternate ways, all the people who work from home and were still productive, all the wonderful frontliners who braved death and sickness and went to their jobs so that our society could still keep on functioning. So the resilience and the courage of the American people, yes, we've lost so many, but we're still standing. And I think that, and in answer to Tricia, I'm very hopeful about the younger generation, the millennials, even the Gen X, the Gen Z, I think it is. I'm very hopeful. And I think that if we all still stay engaged and keep our focus on human connectivity and valuing one another and speaking out as poets, remember, we are always first responders. I think our society will get back and be better than it ever was before that. That's my hope. So thank you all for being here today. And thank you so much, Armando.
And thank you so much, Thelma, for this opportunity. And just to really reiterate this, you won't have to say this, Armando, but my mother did not die of COVID, thank goodness. But she was in isolation, and she is the one of the two books I published recently, Poet Duet, A Mother and Daughter. So in December, in the 12th of December before COVID, we actually got to do a reading at her home, at her collective home. And that was a real blessing, because after she broke her hip and passed 2 months later, I couldn't see her except through the window of what you call FaceTime.
Yes, yes. Oh, my condolences, Carolyn.
That I didn't want to focus on that. I just wanted to be sure you
But it's
understood that.
again
You can
a
edit that
tribute,
in.
a tribute to the resilience and the strength and the love
Uh,
and the communication that goes on generation to generation.
yeah, and having her poetry still in the book form and out there is helpful too. We like that, so that helps. But thank you very much, everyone, and I'm glad to see that all of these pieces are coming together. You've done more for us with the Como poets in the past, and Amanda, thank you so much for doing that too. You do a lot of good work. Thank you very much.
He does. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on this wonderful session. We want to thank Thelma and all her group, and not only the persons here participating, but all the worldwide poets that are participating in their work at every level to keep us all in tune with ourselves and in tune with life. But more than anything, I want to call to action. The idea is that we look into the future, and please continue your important work to remind us not to put our guard down, not to think of something that was in the past, not to think that something just happened to other people. We were all part of this, and we don't want to forget. We just don't want to forget. Last thing, Thelma, if you could please just give us a website where people can go to and refer to get in contact with you, learn more about your poets, as well as this group, the Pushcart Prize nominees, and then as well for future work that you're doing. Could you give us that information, please?
Thank you very much, Armando. Yes, it's the name of our press is Golden Foothills with an S Press. And you can find us at www.goldenfoothillspress.com. You can learn more about this book and the wonderful work that these authors have done. And you can learn about them also on my Facebook page, which I do a lot of literary announcing. And I've mentioned these folks various times in honor of their great talent. And that's just simply Thelma T. Reyna is my Facebook page, one of my Facebook pages. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all. And we look forward to having all of you back on the program as well.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. So great to see you. Bye.